Liberal media is going full Soviet Union, trying to erase from history that Kamala Harris was the border czar. This is just a small sample of numerous gaslighting headlines pushing the, quote, myth of Kamala Harris as border czar. But the worst offender was Axios, which promoted a similar lie. But it turns out that they had labeled Kamala Harris as Biden's border czar 3 years ago.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the liberal left-wing media, mainstream media, trying to lie to you, trying to gaslight you about Kamala Harris. Now, we all know she is the presumptive nominee, although she was not elected, which is a different story, and I digress. Since that's happened, since Biden's dropped out, all of a sudden she was never the border czar, and the illegal immigration and drugs and crime and human trafficking that's happening as a result is not on Kamala Harris's watch because she was never the border czar. This is a complete lie and it's really crazy. And this is why guys like myself and many others out there, alternative media as a collective, are necessary. You see, what we do is bring you the actual facts. The mainstream media will lie to you directly by telling you a straight, bold-faced lie, and or they'll lie to you by omission. They won't give you all the facts needed to come to the proper conclusion. Or, like I said, just tell you a straight-up lie. She was the border czar, it's on documentation, paperwork, video, everything, but they say, no, that didn't happen, don't worry about it. Don't believe your own lying eyes, believe us. Now, before I go any further, let's get to a clip that really displays this. Then we're going to see a few more clips and whatnot to prove the point. And of course, I will link to everything in the box. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
So as you can see, or maybe if you guys can't see the screen, you're hearing TV pundits before Biden dropped out labeling Kamala Harris as the border czar. But after Joe Biden dropped out, all of a sudden, Kamala Harris is not the border czar.
People gonna have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
So it's Republicans labeling her that, or am I watching all the mainstream media outlets, President Biden himself, other politicians, did they label her the border czar? We're just, look, if she wasn't the border czar, then why did you say she was? So you got one of two things going on right now. Number one, you lied back then, or number two, you're lying right now. In either case, you're lying.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
So what are we saying? And we have more evidence. Oh, yeah, I got the receipts. Now, here's the big man himself. Here's the big guy, as Hunter would call him when he giving them some of his illegal overseas proceeds. Here's the big guy talking about Kamala being the border czar.
So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. And so this increase has been consequential, but the vice presidents agreed, among the multiple other things that have happened in the meeting, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders,
So now, some are going to try to twist this. Oh, well, what he's saying is right, because one of the pundits is talking about she was brought on to address the root causes of migration. That does not sound the same as what he's saying, talking about enforcing border patrol. So we're talking about root causes of migration like poverty, crime, violence, or security. Are you in charge of borders as the border czar, as he just mentioned? Or is it something else? And if it's something else, then why did you guys keep saying border, 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 border after she was appointed the border czar?
So, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, and you're smiling, but there's no one better capable of trying to organize this for us.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having the confidence in me. And there's no question that this is a challenging situation. As the President has said, there are many factors that lead President to leave these countries. And while we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law, and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek, as the President has described.
Now let's pause. You said we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we got to address the root causes. So what that means is, not only am I going to be in charge of the border as a border czar, we're also going to look at the root causes. This goes contrary to what one of the reporters said, which was she was only appointed to look after the root causes. You see what I'm saying? We got conflicting statements here. Now, as border czar, Ms. Harris didn't really do too much, except for a couple of moments. The main one you may have seen is the whole "don't come" comment. That was in reference to the border. Check it out.
Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
That sounds a lot like a border czar, doesn't it? Don't come. That's not a very effective way to close the border because the border's wide open. Shout out to Anton Daniels. I was on this stream recently, and one of the guests, 2K, shout out to you, sir. He was saying, you know what? Maybe she is doing a job as a border czar to keep that border wide open and to replace the black vote. To replace Americans in general, I would say, but what he said made a lot of sense too. Now, there's more. Oh, we got more, of course. Now, this was a funny moment. This was a funny moment because she was on, I believe it's on NBC, and Lester Holt was interviewing her, and he asked her back in 2021, right when she first got on with Joe Biden as vice president, he was asking her, hey, you're in charge of the border. Why have you been to the border?
We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Okay, so yeah, I've never been to the border, but I've never been to Europe either. You know, I'm the border czar. I'm not the Europe czar. The European Union czar, the czar of the United Kingdom and Great Britain and Ireland. But guess what? Hey, it's the same thing as my job as the border czar. This woman is ridiculous. She has no chance, in my humble opinion. She was heavily disliked in 2020 when she ran for president the first time. She polled pretty much dead last behind even Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg and everybody else. The media trying to gaslight you is not going to work because, like I said, as I close and wrap it on up, put the bow on top, the alternative media is here to keep everybody honest. We are the honest people. We're going to give you the real information. And I would say, don't even believe me. Do your own research, look it up for yourself, and don't just take whatever they say for gospel. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what the mainstream media is doing? Why would they lie about something so obviously fake and easily debunked? Maybe they think, as I said before, they just think we're all dumb and we're not going to know any better. Tell us anything. Tell us any kind of lie. Tell us the sky is green and purple with rainbow sprinkles from cupcakes in the clouds you can eat. And then they're going to think we're just going to believe that. Tell us anything because it's on TV, right? I was taught as a kid to not believe everything I saw on TV, but I think some of us have not gotten that message. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.